The drum stopped mid-beat. Under the silk cotton tree at the center of Jeju village, Baba Odu raised the cowtail whisk over a wide black clay pot. Elders formed a circle. Women in bright Ankara wrappers leaned in. The air smelled of hot dust, fresh shea butter, and wet leaves. Omolola, slim and ebony-skinned with neat cornrows tied back under a small geel, held her newborn son to her chest. The boy's tiny fists fluttered. The crowd waited for the first splash from the ancestral pot. Omolola stepped back. "Stop," she said, voice steady but loud. "No one will touch my child with that water." Gasps punched the air. A calabash tilted. Water slapped the rim. Baba Odu's smile fell away. "Young woman," he said, the whisk lowering, "do you want to bring trouble on your house?" Omolola tightened the blue wrapper around her waist. "I will not let that water touch him." A hush spread like smoke. Even the dun-dun drum went quiet, skin still trembling from the last strike. Children froze with roasted corn in their hands. The chiefs, Baale Oladoton in white agbada, Chief Balagan in a rust-red cap, the Ayalodi in coral beads, stared as if the ground had opened. "You insult our fathers," a man shouted. "She is proud because she is beautiful," a woman snapped. Adewale, Omolola's husband, strong and brown-skinned in a simple buba, stepped in front of his wife. "Please," he said, palms up, "let us talk." But the circle closed tighter. The cowtail whisk pointed like a finger of blame. The ancestral pot glistened dark and still, its rim shiny with years of hands and prayers. And then the Baal spoke, slow and heavy. "If she refuses the pot, she refuses the protection of the land. She will bear the cost." Omolola did not blink. The Iyalode hissed under her breath, then snapped her fingers. 2 guards moved. They took Omolola by the arms. Adewale reached for his son. The baby began to cry, a thin blade of sound against the thick air. In that moment, a single drop rolled down from the pot's rim and struck the dust. It left a small shiny mark, like oil on top of water. The drum did not start again. The guards pulled Omolola toward the tree, and the Baale raised his hand to order the first punishment, just as something knocked, faint but clear, against the inside of the pot. In Jeju village, the ancestral pot was not just a pot. It was the first water for every newborn. One splash on a child's skin, and the child belonged, protected by fathers before fathers, wrapped in the village's breath. To refuse it was to push away a shield. No one did it. Until Omolola did. She did not tremble. She did not lower her eyes. She held her baby like a shield in reverse. Small body pressed to her chest, chin up, looking straight at the men who made rules before she was born. The chiefs took it as an insult. The women called it madness. The young men called it pride. The old men called it a curse already forming. No one asked why. No one except a small boy at the edge of the crowd, bare-chested and ash-kneed, who stared at the pot the way a goat stares at a thorn bush. He had bathed from it once, and was tired for days. His mother told him it was ancestral sleep. He was not so sure. The Baal's hand stayed in the air, and the pot knocked again, soft, like glass against clay. Before this day, Omolola moved through Jeju softly. She sold fresh ogi at the morning market. She greeted elders with a bend of the knee. She helped new mothers tie wrappers tight. Her cornrows were always neat. Her laugh was easy. She listened more than she spoke. People said, "Omolola is a flower, and Adewale is a lucky man." But Omolola had eyes that noticed things. 2 moons before she gave birth, 3 newborns in Jeju fell sick in the same week. The sickness looked the same, fever that rose fast, small lips dry, eyes heavy, tiny bodies too quiet. The mothers cried and prayed. The elders said it was bad wind from the south farm. The babalawo sprinkled powders. The pot was used each time as usual. The babies got weaker. Omolola walked with one of the mothers to the clinic in the next town when the sun was low. She carried a bowl of pap and a bottle of clean well water. The nurse, a calm woman with short natural hair and a green dress, spoke softly and worked quickly. She washed her hands. She checked the baby's breath. She asked about water. She asked when the baby was bathed first. The mother said, "From the pot." She said it with pride. The nurse did not show fear on her face. She only asked, "Where does the pot water come from?" "From the shrine," the mother said. "Where does the shrine water come from?" the nurse asked again. The mother frowned. "Water is water," she said. "From the stream sometimes, from the old well sometimes. Only the elders know." On the walk back, Omolola thought of the shrines in Jeju. There were 2 streams near the village. One was clear and fast, flowing past smooth rocks. Children bathed there on hot days. Goats drank from its edges. The other stream was slow and brown, with dead leaves floating like small boats. It ran behind a new cassava farm where men sprayed chemicals from yellow knapsacks that smelled sharp and sour. A week later, Omolola passed the shrine before sunrise. Dew sat on the elephant grass. Her wrapper was tied tight, baby still inside her belly. Baba Odu was there with a gourd and a small sack. He did not see her. He poured water into the pot. She smelled it before she saw it. An odd smell, like palm wine left too long in the sun mixed with iron. He dropped something small into the pot with a quiet clink. He wiped his hands on his booba and walked away, whistling. Omolola stepped closer. The pot was old and black, its mouth wide, its inside dark as night. She leaned in enough to see only a brown surface with thin rainbow lines like oil after rain. A fly landed, buzzed, and flew away at once. She straightened and pressed her palm to her stomach. The baby shifted. Back at home, she told Adewale. "Something is wrong with the pot," she said, keeping her voice low. Adewale looked at her with loving eyes and tired shoulders. He tapped palm wine for a living, climbing tall trees before first light. "You know the elders," he said. "They won't like this. Let me ask quietly." 2 days later he returned with a careful face. "Baba Odu says the pot is fine," he said. "He says people spread fear because they don't respect the old ways." Omolola looked at his hands, white marks on the palms where fresh sap had dried, and at his kind mouth. "I respect the old ways," she said, "but a baby's first water should be clean." She did not sleep well that night. She dreamed of a wide, black mouth of clay and the smell of iron. When her baby came, the labor was long but simple. Women sang and fanned her. The Ialode held her hand and told her to breathe slow. An old midwife, Mama Tay, caught the baby with a firm laugh. "He is strong," Mama Tay said, laying him on Omolola's chest. "He is a lion." The baby's skin was dark and soft, his hair a small curl on top. They named him Ajani at home as a first name for the walls to hold, until the village named him. They planned the naming day with joy and stew and big pots of jollof rice. Adewale bought palm wine from a friend. Aunties cooked okra soup. Uncles cut firewood. The drummer oiled his sticks. Omolola washed everything twice. The calabashes, the cups, her hands, the baby's cloth. She placed a bowl of clear water by the bed. The bowl caught the sun and made diamonds on the wall. Still, the rule of Jeju stood. First water must come from the ancestral pot. Omolola's stomach nodded when she thought of it. She told herself to be calm. She told herself to watch. The morning came. The village gathered. The pot sat under the silk cotton tree, dark and patient. Baba Odu smiled with all his teeth. "Bring the child," he said. Omolola stepped into the circle. She had already decided. When the first attendant dipped the calabash, a thin slick curled across the surface and broke like a small rainbow snake. Omolola saw it. The midwife saw it. The midwife's eyes flicked, then dropped to the ground. Omolola said no, and the world of Jeju tilted. Women wailed, men shouted. 2 boys laughed until their mother pinched their ears. The chief's staff hit the ground. Gboom. "Silence," the Baal said, though his own voice shook. "Why?" Iolode asked, stepping forward, beads touching her collarbone. Tell us why. The pot is not clean, Omolola said. It will harm him. Baba Odu burst into a loud, bitter laugh. You? A girl with fresh braids? You know more than the fathers of the fathers. The pot has blessed children for 100 seasons. Omolola did not answer him. She looked at the pot, then at the blue sky, then at her son's face. The baby hiccuped and went quiet. Low. Adewale tried again. Let us take the child inside and talk, he pleaded. This is our firstborn. Our hearts are afraid. The Baal looked at the crowd, then at the pot, then at Baba Odu. Pride sat on his shoulder. So did fear. He chose pride. Bind her hands, he said softly. We will teach respect. 2 guards, tall and black-skinned with shaved heads, stepped forward. They did not like the order. It showed in their eyes. But they obeyed. They took Omolola's arms, gentle at first, then firm when she did not move. Adewale lunged. A guard pushed him back with an open palm. Brother, the guard said, almost as a whisper, don't make it worse. Twist. As they pulled Omolola, Mama Tay cried out, Wait! Everyone turned. The old midwife stood near the pot with her hands tight on her wrapper. Let me look, she said. Stand back, Baba Odu snapped. She has delivered babies for 40 rains, Iolode said. Let her look. Mama Tay leaned over the pot, nostrils flaring. She did not speak. She dipped a clean finger, lifted it, rubbed her thumb and finger together, and frowned. This is strange, she said. It is slippery like soap, but smells like rust. Baba Odu clapped his hands in anger. Enough. Your finger has oil from palm kernels. The pot is pure. The child must be bathed. The Bali lifted his hand again, higher this time. The punishment would begin. Low. Omolola closed her eyes for a heartbeat. She remembered the clinic nurse washing hands again and again. She remembered the 3 babies with heavy eyes. She remembered the morning she saw a young man, Baba Odu's cousin, walk from the cassava farm, knapsack on his back, yellow plastic shining in the sun, the same sharp smell hugging his clothes. She remembered him turning into the shrine path with an empty gourd in his hand. She opened her eyes and spoke one line that cut the air. If you love your children, do not use that water. Some people laughed at her. Some did not. High. The guards tied her wrists with cloth and pulled her toward the silk cotton tree. The crowd moved after them like a flood. Someone shouted, 20 strokes. Someone else shouted, make it 30. The drummer hit the skin by accident and stopped again. The baby cried and cried until Auntie Ronki took him to a shaded mat. She hummed. She bounced. His crying softened to small hiccups, then to small, tired breaths. Adewale followed, torn as cloth in the wind. He wanted to hold his wife and hold his son and hold the whole village still. He could do none of it. He stood between the two like a post in the road. Mama Tay stopped beside Auntie Ronki. Let me fetch a little water from my bowl, she whispered half to herself, just to wipe the child's face. Auntie Ronki pointed her chin at the ancestral pot. If the elders see water from another bowl, they will burn the house down, she said, not as a joke. The little boy with ash knees walked close to the pot. He looked left and right. No one was watching him. He stood on his toes and peered in. A fly hovered on the brim. The boy wrinkled his nose and made a face. He saw something dark at the bottom that did not look like water. He stepped back. Iolode's jaw, Baal's eyes, Baba Odu's tight mouth, Adewale's trembling hands, Mama Tay's worried brow, Omolola's steady gaze, the baby's soft chest moving up and down. A bead string shifts, dust spins up under a sandal, the cowtail whisk twitches, sunlight flashes on a tiny wet rim. A guard swallows. The dun-dun drum's leather squeaks. A goat bleats far away. Somewhere a hawk cries. A single calabash settles on its side with a hollow tuck. The first guard tied Omalola's wrists to the low branch. The second guard cut a small switch from a young tree. He tested it in the air. The sound was thin and cruel. The Baal did not look at Omalola's face. He looked at the crowd. He had to be strong. The village watched. His title watched him too. 20, he said again. Baal, Adewale said, voice cracked. Please. Your wife has shamed the fathers, Chief Balogan said. She thinks she knows better than the land. Jeju must not bend. The first strike would land. The village would see. A message would be sent to every new mother. Do not refuse the pot. Omalola stood straight. She put her cheek against the rough bark and faced the square. She set her feet. She did not beg. She kept her eyes on the pot. Only Omalola knew what she had seen 6 nights ago, when the moon was thin and low. She had woken to carry water and had passed the shrine quietly, wrapped in a faded wrapper. She had seen a shadow bend by the pot, heard a small bottle knock clay, and smelled the sharp shame of chemicals used on leaves. She had hidden behind the silk cotton roots until the shadow slipped away. She had walked to the pot after and seen a shiny skin on the water, and a dead lizard caught under the rim, belly up. She had stood there for a long time and pressed her hand over her mouth so her gasp would not wake the trees. She had decided then, her child would not touch this water. She had also decided to speak later, when there were ears to hear. Now there were ears, but they were closed. The guard lifted the switch. At that same breath, on the other side of the circle, 2 aunties, eager to do things right, scooped a calabash from the ancestral pot for another newborn who had arrived early. The calabash's curve cut deep. The water swirled. A thin rainbow slick broke apart and gathered again like a shy snake. One auntie frowned but said nothing. She poured a little into her palm to wet the child's forehead. The baby's mother smiled through her worry. The auntie's hand neared the child's skin. Talk. There it was again. A knock from inside the pot. Louder. Heads turned. Who is hitting the pot? Someone muttered. No one, someone else replied. Maybe it is the spirit. The guard's arm came down. The switch cut the air. And at that exact second, the calabash tipped too far. The pot rocked. A bubble rose from the bottom, a big one, and popped with a wet gasp. Something small and blue rolled up from the dark, hit the inner wall and clinked against the rim. Water sloshed out, wetting the dust in a slick, shining patch. The smell sharpened, metallic, sour, wrong. The auntie jerked back. The baby she held, not Omalola's child but another woman's, gave a short, strange cough. The guard switch froze a finger's width from Omalola's back. Every head turned to the pot. Every mouth opened. And the thing that knocked, smooth, finger length, with a torn paper label stuck to its side, bobbled to the surface, turned once in the brown water, and caught the full, bright sun. The blue object broke the surface and clattered onto the dusty ground. The sound was hollow, strange, too sharp for clay. It rolled twice before stopping near a woman's foot. Silence swept the gathering like Harmattan wind. The woman, her wrapper tied with one knot at her chest, bent slowly and picked it up. She turned it in her hand. Her brows knit. It was small, smooth, and foreign. She held it up in the sun. The crowd leaned closer. It was a bottle. Not a gourd, not a charm, not a calabash, just a small plastic bottle with a faded label. The liquid inside was half full, dark brown and oily. A sharp smell cut the air, bitter, chemical, not of palm wine, not of herbs. Yeah, the woman cried, dropping it as if it burned. Dust clung to its wet sides. The crowd burst into murmurs. What is that? Who put it there? Plastic? In the ancestral pot? Baba Odu's face stiffened like stone. He bent quickly, snatched the bottle from the ground and tucked it into his booba pocket. It is nothing, he said, waving his whisk. A trick from the spirits. This gathering must not be disturbed. Bring the child back. The water is still holy. But the murmurs would not die. They grew louder, overlapping, hungry. Omolola raised her chin. That is what I saw before, she said, voice steady. That is why I refused. The pot is poisoned. A collective gasp rolled through the circle. The baby in Auntie Ronki's arms whimpered again, coughing weakly. The women shifted uneasily. Lies, Baba Odu barked. This is the devil speaking through her mouth. Do not let her destroy the ways of our fathers. The Baal frowned, tugging his gray beard. His authority was slipping. The crowd was restless. He could not allow doubt to stain the tradition openly. Guard, he commanded. Finish what was started. Strike her. The guard hesitated. His eyes flicked to the baby who had coughed. The crowd was no longer still. They whispered, pointed, argued. Mama Tay, the old midwife, stepped forward boldly. Baal! Wait, she said, raising her cracked hands. Look at the child who has already touched this water. Hear his cough. Tell me this is still holy. The Baal's jaw tightened. He wanted to dismiss her. But before he could, the baby coughed louder. A dry, harsh sound that silenced the crowd more than any staff on the ground could. The mother of the coughing child screamed, clutching him to her chest. What is wrong with my baby? The bottle in Baba Odu's pocket knocked against the whisk handle with a dull clink. His eyes flashed, but his smile was forced. All children cough. It is nothing. Nothing, the mother wailed. She held the baby higher, his tiny chest heaving. If my child dies. Her voice broke. The crowd shifted like a restless sea. The guards looked at each other. Even the Baali's staff trembled in his hand. But Baba Odu stamped his foot. Enough. The spirits are angry because this woman, he pointed at Omolola, bound to the tree, has shamed them. Only her punishment will cleanse the pot. Strike her now. The first guard lifted the switch again. The second took a step closer, and then a loud metallic pop came from the pot. Everyone turned. Another bottle floated up, this one bigger. Its cap was cracked and a yellow sticker peeled off its side. Black letters could still be read in part. I sighed. The smell that rose was sharper, choking, stinging eyes and throats. Children coughed. Women covered their noses. Men spat to the side. Jesu, someone shouted. Poison, another cried. It is true. Something is inside the pot. The Baal's eyes widened. His hand lowered, but his mouth stayed shut. For the first time in years, fear, not respect, moved through the crowd toward the ancestral pot. And Omolola, tied to the tree, lifted her voice above the chaos. You see now what I saw. You see why I refused. Will you still punish me, or will you ask who has been feeding poison to your children? The crowd roared with confusion, anger, and fear. All eyes turned, not to Omolola, not to the Baale, not even to the pot. They turned to Baba Odu. The whisk in his hand trembled. The pocket where he had hidden the first bottle bulged. His smile had finally broken. A young man from the crowd shouted, Baba Odu, show us what is in your pocket. And the people surged forward as the guard's switch still hung mid-air. The air in Jeju village thickened as the people surged forward, their sandals kicking up dust that turned the morning sun hazy. The ancestral pot gurgled again, releasing another faint bubble that stank of rot and iron. But all eyes were no longer on the pot. They were on Baba Odu. Show us what is in your pocket, a young man shouted again, louder this time, his voice cracked with anger. Others joined. Yes, let him show us. He is hiding something. What are you keeping from us, Baba Odu? Baba Odu, usually confident with his whisk raised like a king's scepter, suddenly looked small. His wrapper clung to him with sweat, his bald head glistening. His lips parted, but no words came. He pressed the bulging pocket against his side with one hand. The Baal slammed his staff on the ground. Kaboom! The vibration carried through the silence. Enough, he commanded, though even his voice shook. This is no market quarrel. We will not shout like goats over yam peel. But the words did not calm the crowd. The mothers at the front, those whose babies had once coughed after touching the ancestral water, stared with eyes full of suspicion. Men muttered to each other, fists tight. Children clung to their mothers' wrappers, frightened by the change in the village's heartbeat. Mama Tay, the old midwife, stepped forward, her cracked heels silent in the dust. Her voice was firm but low, steady as the river in Harmattan. Baale, with respect you must ask Baba Odu to show us. The lives of our children are in question. The spirits cannot be angry at truth. Baba Odu spat to the ground. Woman, hold your tongue. I am keeper of this shrine. Who are you to question me? But the crowd did not like the way his hands trembled. Omolola, still bound to the tree, lifted her chin and spoke clearly, so all could hear. You call me stubborn, you call me proud, but the truth is there in his pocket. If I am lying, let him open it before us. If I am wrong, then let the first stroke fall on me double. Gasps rippled. Even Adewale, who stood helpless between his wife and the chiefs, turned sharply toward Baba Odu. The Baale's jaw tightened. He was trapped between tradition and the growing storm of his people's anger. He could not appear weak, but neither could he ignore what was in front of him. Slowly he raised his staff again, this time pointing it at Baba Odu. Empty your pocket, the Baale ordered. The crowd roared their approval. Baba Odu's face went pale, but he forced a smile that stretched too wide. Baale, you dishonor me. Must I, a priest of the fathers, be searched like a thief? These are sacred items. The spirits forbid me to show them in public. Then the spirits will forgive today, Mama Tay said sharply, or else we will know which spirit you truly serve. A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. One of the guards, still holding the switch that had nearly struck Omolola, now lowered it and took a cautious step toward Baba Odu. Baba, he said quietly, please, for the peace of Jeju, open your pocket. The whisk in Baba Odu's hand trembled. He looked left, then right. The weight of the village pressed down on him. And then, in one sudden movement, he threw the whisk to the ground and bolted. The crowd screamed. Catch him! Don't let him run! He is guilty! Men lunged forward, but Baba Odu moved faster than anyone had seen an old man move. His buba flapped as he darted through the circle, sand flying under his feet. Children cried as he pushed past. Women cursed as he knocked their bowls aside. The bottle clinked in his pocket as he ran. Adewale did not think. He leapt after him, strong legs pounding the earth. The young men of the village followed, some barefoot, some still clutching calabashes. The chase tore through the circle and down the dusty road toward the shrine path. The Baal shouted, "Bring him back alive!" But his voice was nearly drowned in the roar of the crowd. Omolola strained against her bindings, her eyes wide. Her baby, Ajani, cried again from the shaded mat where Auntie Ronki held him. The ancestral pot, forgotten for a moment, gave another strange pop, sending up a thin, oily bubble that burst with a bitter smell. Mama Tay's eyes lingered on the pot. Her lips moved in a prayer. Then she turned toward the chase. The whole village moved as one, thunderous feet chasing after the priest who had guarded their tradition for decades. And in the shadows of the shrine, far ahead, Baba Odu stumbled once but kept running. His pocket bulged with secrets, and every heartbeat brought him closer to the place where those secrets had been hidden for years. Baba Odu runs toward the shrine with the crowd in furious pursuit, while the ancestral pot begins to bubble strangely behind them, as if something else is about to surface. Baba Odu's sandals slapped the dusty ground as he sprinted toward the shrine path. His chest heaved, his beads swung wildly, and the bottle in his pocket clinked against his hip with each step. The sun burned hotter overhead, and the shouts of the villagers followed like a storm. "Stop him! Block the road! Don't let him reach the shrine!" But Baba Odu knew every curve, every shortcut, every route that jutted from the earth. For years his feet had walked this same path at dawn and midnight. He darted past a mango tree, cut across the yam field, and leapt over a shallow ditch like a desperate goat. His breath rasped, but fear gave him wings. Behind him, Adewale ran with the strength of a palm wine tapper who had climbed tall trees all his life. His bare feet pounded the earth, muscles straining. Sweat slicked his ebony skin, but he did not slow. Omalola's face flashed in his mind. Her bound wrists, her steady eyes, her refusal to yield. He would not let Baba Odu escape. The young men of Jeju trailed close behind, their voices blending into a chorus of fury. Some carried sticks, others stones, their anger boiling hotter than the midday sun. At the edge of the shrine grove, Baba Odu stumbled. His foot caught on a root and he lurched forward, crashing into the earth. The crowd shouted with triumph. But before anyone could reach him, he scrambled up again, clutching his pocket as if it held his soul. He staggered into the shadow of the grove, the tall silk cotton trees swallowing him whole. The villagers poured in after him. The shrine grove was different from the open village square. It was darker here, the air cooler, heavy with the smell of old leaves and damp soil. Strange chalk marks clung to the roots of trees. Broken calabashes lay scattered, their insides blackened with old sacrifices. The ancestral pot was not the only relic hidden here. There were other smaller pots, gourds, charms wrapped in red cloth, cowries arranged in careful circles. The chase slowed as fear prickled the villagers' skin. They had always respected this place. Children were warned never to play here. Even hunters avoided it at dusk. Now their anger fought with superstition in their hearts. "There!" Adewale shouted. Baba Odu stood before a shallow pit at the foot of the biggest tree. His hands trembled as he pulled something from the soil, an old wooden box stained with damp. He fumbled with the lid. Adewale charged forward, grabbing him by the shoulder. The two men struggled, rolling in the dirt. The box fell open with a crack, and what spilled out froze the entire crowd. Bottles. Dozens of small plastic bottles, some cracked, some half-filled with dark liquid. The labels were torn, but one word could still be read on many: pesticide. The sharp chemical stench rose like a ghost, choking the air. Flies buzzed madly around the pit. Some bottles had leaked, staining the soil with greasy patches where no grass grew. The villagers gasped as one. "My God," whispered one woman. "This is what poisoned the pot," said a man, his voice low and fearful. "All this time," Mama Tay muttered, her hands shaking. Baba Odu kicked free from Adewale's grip and clutched at the box. "You fools," he spat, his voice breaking. "You don't understand. Without this, the spirits would abandon Jeju. Without this, the ancestors would not hear our prayers." "Liar," someone roared. "This is poison." "You are killing our children," another cried. But Baba Odu shook his head violently, foam at the edge of his mouth. "No, the land is sick, the farms fail, the cassava dies. The spirits demanded sacrifice, so I gave them what they asked. You think your streams are clean? You think the soil is pure? Without this, Jeju would starve." Adewale grabbed him again, fury in his eyes. "And so you poisoned our children? You called it tradition, but it was death." The crowd surged closer, voices rising, stones lifted. Fear and rage mixed in their hearts. Some wanted answers, some wanted blood. Baba Odu's eyes darted wildly. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the first bottle, the one that had rolled from the ancestral pot, and held it high like a charm. "Touch me, and the spirits will curse you all," he screamed. "This is sacred, sacred." But the bottle slipped in his sweaty hand. It dropped, cracked on a stone, and the liquid inside spilled into the dirt. The smell was unbearable. Even the flies recoiled. The crowd erupted in fury. "Seize him! Don't let him escape again! Make him pay for our children!" The guards pushed through, grabbing Baba Odu by the arms. He thrashed, bit, and spat, but the young men piled on, forcing him down. Dust rose in choking clouds as he howled like a trapped animal. For the first time in his life, Baba Odu was not feared. He was despised. Adewale stepped back, his chest heaving. He looked at the bottles, the soil, the priest pinned under the weight of angry villagers. His heart pounded with rage, but also with fear. What if Baba Odu was telling the truth? What if the land itself was poisoned, and these bottles were only part of a darker secret? And back in the village square, the ancestral pot bubbled again. A third object was rising to the surface. Baba Odu is seized at the shrine, his secret cache of pesticide bottles revealed. But as he screams of sacrifice for the land, the ancestral pot back in the square begins to bubble violently, threatening to reveal something even more horrifying. Back in the village square, the people who had not joined the chase crowded tightly around the ancestral pot. Mothers held their babies close, some whispering prayers, others clutching amulets against their chests. The air was sharp with fear. The pot shuddered. A long, low glug echoed inside like a throat swallowing. Bubbles broke the surface, larger now, oily rainbows shimmering on the brown water. The stench of chemicals hung thicker, burning the nose. Then, slowly, another object rose. First a corner, then a whole shape. A black plastic sack, swollen with liquid, slick and grimy. It bobbed against the rim before tearing open with a wet rip. Dark sludge spilled out, curling like smoke in the water. And from the torn hole slipped more bottles, small ones, big ones, clattering against the pot's sides as they surfaced. The crowd gasped. Some stumbled back. It is full of them. The whole pot is rotten. All this time we were blind. The Ayalode, usually steady as iron, covered her nose with her wrapper and hissed in disgust. Even the Baal, who had returned with the others, stumbled to the edge of the circle, eyes wide as he saw the truth floating like corpses in the sacred pot. The guards dragged Baba Odu into the square, his wrapper torn, his beads broken, his mouth bleeding from the struggle. He laughed, a bitter, cracked laugh that silenced even the crying babies. "You see now?" He croaked, spitting blood. "Without me you would never have known. I gave the spirits what they wanted. Without my offering, the land itself would have cursed you. Do you think your children would live long without sacrifice? Better to lose a few than for Jeju to starve." "Madness," Adewale shouted, his voice ringing like metal. He held Omalola's hand now. The guards had freed her in the chaos, and she stood tall beside him, a Johnny wrapped firmly against her chest. "You poisoned us and called it tradition. You killed our children and called it sacrifice. You are no priest. You are a murderer." The crowd roared in agreement. Stones lifted again. Men surged forward. But Mama Tay, her eyes wet with tears, raised her hand. "Wait," she said, voice trembling. "If he is guilty, then so are we. For years we bowed our heads and never asked questions. We let him guard the pot without looking inside. We feared spirits and ignored the smell of poison. And our children paid the price." Her words struck the crowd like thunder. Shame crept into their eyes, mingling with their anger. Some dropped their stones. Some stared at the ground. The Baal's staff lowered, heavy as if the weight of all his seasons pressed upon it. Baba Odu seized the moment, twisting in the guard's grip, his voice rising with desperation. "Yes, you followed me. You obeyed me. You are all part of it. You cannot cast me aside without casting yourselves too." Omalola's voice cut through, sharp and clear. "The difference is this. We did not know. But you knew. You hid it. You buried it. You watched mothers cry and children die. And still you smiled. That is your sin, and it will follow you into the ground." The villagers erupted again, this time with certainty. Their fury boiled over and the guards could barely hold them back. And then, the ancestral pot screamed. Not a voice, but a high, piercing shriek of air escaping the bubbling sludge. The surface rose, foamed, and burst. Black liquid sprayed, burning eyes, stinging skin. People stumbled back, shielding their faces. The pot rocked on its base, threatening to topple. From its depths, something larger began to surface. Not a bottle this time, not a sack. Something heavier, human-shaped. The crowd froze in horror as a dark, bloated arm broke the surface. Then a swollen face, its features twisted and pale, hair matted with slime. A body. A human body hidden in the pot. The Ayalode screamed. Children wailed. Even the Baal staggered back, his staff dropping from his hand. Mama Tay clutched her chest. Oh, merciful heavens. This is no sacrifice. This is murder. The corpse bobbed once, twice, and rolled until its milky eyes seemed to stare at the entire village. The stench was unbearable. Flies swarmed in clouds. Adewale pulled Omolola and Ajani back, shielding them. His voice was low, shaking. How many more are down there? Omolola's lips pressed tight. She knew the answer before anyone spoke. Baba Odu thrashed against the guards, screaming, his voice ragged. You don't understand. They demanded it. The spirits demanded it. If not, the land would die. No one listened anymore. His words were drowned by the cries of the people, by the wails of mothers who remembered the children they had lost, by the chants of young men calling for justice. The Baal raised his hands, his face ashen. Bind him tighter, he commanded hoarsely. He will answer for this before the whole council. And the pot. He looked at it, trembling violently, sludge spilling over its rim. The pot must be destroyed. The crowd roared their approval. But just as the guards began to drag Baba Odu away, the corpse in the pot twitched. Its hand jerked. Its mouth opened. And from that dead throat came a sound, low, gurgling, and alive. The corpse pulled itself halfway up from the ancestral pot, its milky eyes rolling, and in a voice not its own, it whispered, Jeju belongs to me. The corpse's head tipped back, water and brown foam spilling from the mouth. The milky eyes rolled once, the lips pulled wide as gas pushed through the throat. The sound that came out was wet, low and broken, yet, to frightened ears, it shaped a sentence. Jeju belongs to me. People screamed. Women stumbled. Men dragged children away. The Bale reached for his fallen staff and missed it. The Iyalode pressed her coral beads to her chest and whispered a prayer. Baba Odu froze between the guards, terror mixing with triumph in his eyes, as if the dead had risen to defend him. Ajani whimpered against Omolola's chest. She turned her body to shield him from the spray. Adewale held them both, his heart hammering. The corpse's jaw slackened. A long burp of gas bubbled out, then silence. The pot rocked, sludge licking its rim, bottles knocking each other with ugly clicks. Then a small voice cut the fear. The ash-kneed boy at the front yelled, Someone is behind the pot. Panic makes sight weak. In the first few breaths after the voice, the crowd saw only ghosts. But children see simple things. The ash-kneed boy tugged his mother's wrapper and pointed at the shadow by the roots of the silk cotton tree. A figure crouched there, half hidden by the big roots, one hand pressed to a bamboo reed that ran along the backside of the pot's base like a snake. He wasn't a spirit. He was a man. The boy shouted again, There! That uncle behind the tree! Head snapped. The figure jerked, startled, and tried to pull the reed free. It caught on a knot and didn't come loose. The man panicked, let the reed drop, and bolted. A young hunter leapt, grabbed his wrapper, and dragged him down hard. The village surged forward like a single body. They pulled the man into the open. He was slim, brown-skinned, with a thin beard and darting eyes. His name came down the line of murmurs before anyone asked. Aremu, Baba Odu's cousin, the one who worked sometimes on the cassava farm and sometimes at the shrine. The reed lay where it had fallen, a simple length of bamboo, one end damp and stained, the other end shaped to a mouthpiece with a rough scrape of blade. It wasn't magic. It was air and fear. The Iyalode stepped closer, eyes sharp. What were you doing with this? Aremu's lips trembled. He looked at Baba Odu. Baba Odu looked at the sky. Answer! The Bale barked, voice returning slowly. Aremu swallowed. It was only to honor the fathers, he stammered, to remind people to fear, so they will respect the pot. A slap cracked the air. It wasn't anger from a young man. It was from an old mother whose first child had died 3 years ago. Her hand shook after she hit him. Her eyes were dry. Her tears had finished long ago. "You made the dead speak with a tube and called it respect," she said, voice thin and strong at the same time. Aremu covered his cheek. "I did only what you were told," Mama Tay finished for him, stepping into the circle. The old midwife's back was straight despite her years. "By him." She pointed to Baba Odu. "You did not plan this. You obeyed. But obedience without sense kills." The guards tightened their hold on Baba Odu. His chest rose and fell too fast. He hissed, "All of you will die hungry. You throw away fear and the land will punish you." Omolola spoke plainly. "The land is already punishing us because we poison it. You said sacrifice. You meant waste. You meant bottles and sludge. You meant hiding a man's body in a holy pot." All eyes went back to the pot. The corpse bumped the side and turned one shoulder up. The face, pale and swollen, was familiar to some. Murmurs ran. "Is that not Kola, the night guard from the farm? He went missing last month. His wife said he never came home." "Jesu." The Ialode covered her mouth. "Call his wife," she said. "She must see." The Baal nodded. A boy ran, feet flicking dust, toward the road to the farm quarters. Adewale looked at Omolola. "We must not let them burn the pot," he said in a low voice. "They will want to. But we need proof. We need to show the clinic nurse. We need the police from town." Omolola's eyes flicked to the crowd, hot, shaking, ready to tear the shrine down with hands and anger. "Then we must move fast," she said. She loosened the sling at her shoulder just enough to kiss Ajani's forehead. She handed him to Auntie Ronki, who nodded, already swaying and humming to keep the baby calm. Then Omolola untied the spare wrapper at her waist and wrapped it tight over her hair. She took a clean calabash and a clear soda bottle from a trader's mat without asking. "I will pay," she promised with a quick glance. The trader nodded, wide-eyed. She crouched by the edge of the pot, as close as she dared. "Don't touch that," someone shouted. "I'm not bathing my child," she answered without turning her head. "I'm collecting evidence." She scooped carefully from the surface, letting the oily sheen slide into the calabash. The smell burned her throat. She poured it into the clear bottle. Thin rainbow lines clung to the inside of the plastic. She capped it tight and wiped the outside with a clean cloth. She filled a second bottle from the bottom by dipping the calabash deeper and skirting the floating sludge. She capped that too. "Hold them like your eyes," she told Adewale, handing him the bottles. "Do not drop them. Do not let anyone open them." He nodded, grip firm, face set. The Baal's voice rose. "Hear me. There will be order in Jeju." It helped that he was shouting. It helped more that he sounded like himself again. "We will not kill like goats in the market. We will bind the priest and keep him in the storage room by the square. We will send to the police in town. We will send to the clinic nurse. We will take the pot down and carry it to the open ground by the school. We will not pour it away yet. We must show what has been done." Some men grumbled, "Break it now. Burn it." But the Ayalode lifted her hand and the noise settled. The Baal is right. If we burn it now, the truth will turn to smoke. Let the truth stand in the sun. 2 guards, 3 strong farmers, and the young hunter moved to lift the pot onto a flat plank. The corpse shifted, making the job worse. They gagged at the smell. They tied cloth across their faces. Slowly, with straining legs and loud breaths, they carried the heavy thing away from the shrine roots toward the open ground. Aremu, hands tied, watched them go with a sick face. Omolola kept her body between Ajani and the pot, even at a distance. Her eyes tracked everyone, who touched bottles, who stepped near the reed, who whispered behind hands. Fear makes people foolish. Evidence disappears when foolishness rises. The ash-kneed boy stood near her, serious now. "It sounded like a person," he said quietly, as if he needed to explain his earlier fear. "It was air," Omolola told him, kind but firm. "Air and fear turned into a voice in your head, but your eyes were strong, You saw the man. You did well. He straightened, pride pushing his chest up. As the men set the pot down in the open ground by the school, another black sack split. More bottles bobbed up, some labeled herbicide, some with foreign names, a few plain with no label at all. A whisper ran through the crowd. How can this be in a holy thing? Who brought them here? Why did no one stop it? Mothers pressed babies to their shoulders as if to hide them from the sight. A shout rose from the far path. The boy sent to the farm quarters was running back, followed by a woman in a faded yellow skirt and a scarf tied tight. Her face was carved with grief even before she reached the square. She saw the corpse and stopped, hands flying to her head. "Cola!" she cried. The sound bent the air. She crumpled. Women caught her, eased her down, fanned her, wept with her. Even those who had not liked Cola in life wept with her in that moment. Grief breaks old quarrels like dry sticks. The Baal lowered his head. "We will not leave him in filth," he said. "We will call men with strong hands and clean hearts to remove him. We will call the police to witness it first." He looked at the runner by the road. "Go now. Run to town, to the police post, to the clinic. Tell them to come fast. Tell them we have dead, we have poison, we have a priest bound." The runner sprinted. The heat grew heavy. The sun pressed on heads like a hand. The smell lingered. Children whined. A goat broke free of its rope and ran in confused circles until a girl caught it by the horn and tied it again. Mama Tay walked to Omolola and touched her elbow. "Your hands were steady," she said. "Not many in this square remembered sense today." Omolola nodded once. "My child must live," she said. "So other children must live too." Chief Balogan, who had been quiet since the first bottle floated up, pushed forward now. His cap sat awkward on his head. Sweat darkened his rust-red agbada at the armpits. He pointed at Baba Odu and Aremu, voice loud and hard enough to cover the tremble under it. "These two have shamed us," he declared. "They acted alone. They alone poisoned our pot. Let the law take them and hang them if the law wishes. But let us stop digging. The more we dig, the more flies we find." The Ialode's eyes narrowed. "Why does it worry you if we dig?" she asked softly. Chief Balogan smiled without warmth. "Because the village is shaking. People are angry. Anger burns farms." Adewale spoke, surprising himself. "Some farms already burn roots with chemicals," he said. "It is not anger that kills cassava leaves." Several men turned to look at him. Chief Balogan did not. The young hunter, the one who had dragged Aremu from the roots, lifted the bamboo reed. "See this?" he called. "This was used to fake the voice. And look here." He pointed with the reed along the ground at a shallow groove that led from behind the pot toward the shrine side wall. "There is a place where someone has been walking back and forth often. The ground is flat there, a path for thieves." "Thieves of truth," Mamate said. Chief Balogan folded his arms. "We waste time on shadows," he replied. "The police will come. Let them carry the pot. Let them carry the men. Let us go back to work." "No," the Ialode said. "No," Omolola said. "No," said others, stronger now. Adewale took a breath. "Chief," he said, "you own part of the cassava farm, is it true?" A small gasp ran around the circle like a fly. It wasn't a secret, not really, but it had never been spoken loud in the square. Chief Balogan's mouth hardened. "I have many businesses," he said. "I feed my family and sometimes the families of others when the village is hungry. That is all." "Do you use that farm's waste to fill this pot?" Adewale asked. His voice stayed calm. "Yes or no?" "I am not a fool," Chief Balogan snapped. "I do not touch shrines. I do not carry dirt in my own hands." "Then who did?" the Ialode pressed. Silence. Aremu's eyes darted. Baba Odu looked away. The bottle in Adewale's hand gleamed in the heat. The drummer, who had been silent so long his hands ached, tapped his stick softly against the drum skin without thinking. Talk. Talk. He stopped at once and looked around, ashamed, as if the drum itself were guilty. A breeze came and went. It did not help the stink. A hen scratched the dust, found nothing, clucked sadly. The runner to town did not return yet. A shout lifted from the road. Not one voice, many. The sound of a motorbike. Then two. Then more. Men from the cassava farm rode in, yellow knapsacks on their backs, machetes at their waists, faces tight. They did not look like men coming to help. They looked like men sent to fetch. Chief Belogan's smile returned too quickly. "Ah, good," he said too loud. "Farm boys have come to keep order." He spread his hands. "Put your knives away. We are a village in sorrow." The farm men did not put their knives away. They parked the bikes in a line like a fence and stepped off, boots tapping the dust. One of them, thick-necked and dark, pointed at Baba Odu. "We came for the priest," he said. "Our boss sent us. He must not be harmed here. He will be moved." "Who is your boss?" the Ialode asked. The man's eyes flicked to Chief Belogan and past him. He did not answer. The guards shifted their feet. The young men of Jeju bristled. The air thinned. Omolola pulled Ajani closer and stepped sideways, placing herself between the farm men and the two bottles in Adewale's hands without making a show of it. Adewale understood and moved his body to block view. The thick-necked man took a step forward. "Release him," he said. "No," the ball answered. His voice had found iron again. "He is bound by order of the village. He stays until the police arrive." The man smiled oddly. "Will the police arrive today?" he asked. "Or tomorrow? Or never?" The village heard the threat under the question. The young hunter lifted the bamboo reed, not as a weapon, but as a sign. "We have eyes now," he said. "We saw what was done. We will not close them again." The thick-necked man moved too fast. He lunged, grabbing for Baba Odu's arm. A guard blocked him. Another farm man swung his machete flat-side like a club. The blade hit the guard's forearm. The guard cried out and stumbled. The square exploded. Men surged. Women dragged children back. Dust swallowed ankles. A machete flashed, then another. A stick cracked on someone's shoulder. Someone kicked the plank under the pot by mistake. The heavy thing rocked, sloshing black water over the rim. The corpse shifted, arms rising and falling like a puppet. The widow wailed and clawed at the ground, begging them not to spill him like trash. Aremu, hands bound, crouched and tried to crawl away like a crab. Two teenage boys saw him, pounced and sat on his legs. Mamate shouted, "Stop, stop, you fools! The dead is watching you!" She threw herself into the middle, pushing men apart with the strength of a mother lifting a fallen yam sack. Omolola's heart slammed against her ribs. Ajani whimpered, then coughed. A thin cough at first, then another, then a third, sharp enough to slice her breath. She turned him so his face was to the air. His little chest moved faster than before. "Ajani?" she whispered, fear shooting hot through her belly. Adewale heard the new sound and looked down. His hands tightened on the bottles until his knuckles whitened. "We need space," he said. "We need clean air." They moved, cutting through the chaos, toward the school wall, where the breeze was a little stronger. Auntie Ronki followed, arms out as if to catch the baby if he fell, even though he was tied to his mother. The fight slowed, as fights do when no one wants to strike first, and everyone hurts anyway. The farm men stepped back, surprised by the village's hard push. One of them wiped blood from his lip and laughed without joy. "You are making big trouble for yourselves," he said. The Baal lifted his staff high. "Leave this square," he ordered. "You did not come to help. Go." The men hesitated. Chief Balogan stepped toward them. "Stand down," he whispered, or tried to. The square heard it anyway. They looked at him, then at the crowd, judged the numbers, spat on the ground, and mounted their bikes. Engines coughed to life. Dust rose as they sped away. Silence took time to return. When it came, it arrived like a tired friend. People sat where they stood. Someone passed water. Someone else passed a bowl of Gary and ground nuts with a shaking hand. The widow of Kola rocked and hummed an old song under her breath, the kind that mothers sing when the world has no sense. Omolola crouched with Ajani by the school wall. She touched his forehead. Warm. She checked his breathing. Fast but steady, she tilted him upright and patted his back gently. "My son," she murmured, "stay with me." Her words were simple, but her eyes burned. Adewale knelt beside them, bottles still in his grip. "He will be fine," he said. He believed it because he had to. Mama Tay came and felt the baby's chest with the back of her hand. "Keep him away from the smell," she said. "When the nurse arrives, we will ask for clean water and salt to make a rinse. Not inside his mouth, only to wash his face and hands. And you?" She looked at Omolola's wrists, still marked where the guards had tied her. "You need palm oil and rest. But not now." Omolola nodded. "Not now." Sirens. Faint at first, then louder. The runner had not failed. A white police pickup rattled into the square with 2 motorcycles behind it. A blue uniformed officer stood in the back, one hand on the rail. The truck stopped. Dust settled on his polished shoes as he jumped down. He was not from Jeju. His badge read, Inspector Adekunle. He had a city face, smooth, tired, watchful. 2 constables followed, and a health officer in a green vest stepped out of the second motorbike taxi, nose wrinkled at the smell. The village exhaled at the same time. Finally, outside eyes. Finally, someone who could write what they had seen in a book that mattered. The inspector took in the scene quickly. The pot on the plank, the dark water, the bottles floating, the corpse, the bound priest, the tied cousin, the bruised guard, the Baal, the Ayalode, the woman with a baby glued to her chest and fire in her eyes. "Who is in charge here?" he asked. "I am," the Baal said, stepping forward. "Welcome. You see what we have found." The health officer covered her mouth with a scarf. "No one goes too close," she said. "No flames, please. Some of these solvents can catch." She snapped on thin gloves. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were already measuring. Inspector Adekunle walked around the pot, slow. He kept his hands behind his back. "Who is this?" he asked, nodding at Baba Odu. "The shrine priest," the Baal said. "We believe he has been putting these things in the pot. We found many more buried at the grove." "And the body?" "Kola," someone answered. "Night guard at the farm." The inspector's eyes moved, small movements that took in many things. They landed on Chief Balogan, who stood a little apart, arms tight across his chest. "Your name?" the inspector asked. "Chief Balogan," the man replied, chin lifting. "A chief of Jeju. We called you here." The inspector's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Did you?" He turned and his gaze met Omolola's for a heartbeat. He looked at the bottles in Adewale's hands. "What is that?" "Samples," Omolola said. "From the surface and from the bottom. Capped, not opened." "Good," the health officer said at once. "Very good." The inspector nodded. He looked at the guards holding Baba Odu and Aremu. "Release them to me," he said. "We will take statements at the post. We will secure the scene." The village murmured. "Take them," someone whispered. "Let the law do law." The constables moved. They took Baba Odu by the arms, pulled his hands behind his back, and clicked cuffs. They did the same to Aremu. Aremu sagged. Baba Odu stared straight ahead at the horizon, jaw tight. Then the inspector's voice shifted. It grew flat. "And arrest that woman," he added, pointing straight at Omolola. The square exploded with shock. "What? Which woman? Why?" The inspector pointed again. "Her, the one who disturbed a lawful ceremony, the one who incited a riot, the one who refused the ordinance of her village." A hush like heat came over the crowd. For a second, even goats forgot to breathe. The Ielode stepped forward, beads clicking softly. "Inspector," she said, voice controlled. "If not for this woman, we would still be bathing babies in poison. If not for her eyes and her courage, you would not be standing here. Are you blind?" Chief Balogan coughed into his hand. "Let the law do its work," he said, very pious now. "No one is above peace. If everyone refuses orders, there will be chaos. We cannot reward disrespect." Omolola did not move. Ajani's breath warmed her chest through the cloth. Adewale straightened, anger rising in him like a drumbeat, steady and loud. The inspector looked at Chief Balogan, then at the pot, then at the bottles, then at the ball. His face showed nothing. "Officer," he said to a constable, "put her in the truck." Adewale stepped in front of her without thinking. "Inspector, sir," he said, careful but fierce. "If you arrest the one who saved our children and leave the one who buried poison protected, then you have become part of the poison." The constable hesitated, eyes flicking to the crowd. He was not eager to put hand on a new mother in a village square full of boiling hearts. The health officer spoke up clear and fast. "Inspector, if you remove the mother who collected evidence, I cannot certify chain of custody for these samples. If I cannot certify, any test in the lab may be thrown out. If that is thrown out, your case will be weak. Sir." Silence again. This silence felt like standing on a thin branch. The inspector's eye twitched. He did not like being instructed, but he liked weak cases even less. He took a breath and tilted his head. "Very well," he said at last. "She will stay. For now." He turned, voice sharp again. "But no one moves. No one leaves this square until I finish. Anyone who starts another fight will sleep behind bars tonight." The village exhaled as one. The constable lowered his hand. Adewale's shoulders dropped to finger's width. Chief Balogan's mouth thinned. The health officer snapped open a case, pulled swabs, labels, and forms, and began to work. She took small scoops from the pot without touching floating bottles, labeled tubes, wrote times. She asked for the 2 bottles from Adewale and photographed them with a small device before putting them into a sealed bag with numbers. Inspector Adekunle sent one constable to tape the area with rope and cloth. He sent another to take statements from the widow, from the guards, from the hunter, from the Ashneed boy. He spoke low to the Baal and the Ielode. He did his work like a man who had done it 100 times and been thanked only twice. Omolola watched everything. Ajani's breathing slowed. She touched his hair. Mama Tay stood behind her like a tree trunk, solid and near. A shout snapped heads around, this time from the road again. The white pickup jerked, rocked. Men in plain clothes had surrounded it, not farm boys, city men. A black SUV idled behind them with its engine humming, windows dark. One of the men wore a gold wristwatch too bright for the village sun. Another had a small radio pressed to his mouth. The SUV's back door opened a little. A figure inside, hidden by tint and shadow, leaned forward and spoke to the man with the watch. The man nodded, then lifted his chin at the inspector. "Officer," he called, smooth as palm oil. "We are from the state task force. We will take custody of this matter. Load the priest and his cousin into our vehicle. Seal that pot. Move the woman who collected samples away from the scene. She is interfering." "Task force?" the Baal repeated, frown deepening. "Which task force? Who sent you?" The man smiled. "The right one." The health officer's pen paused in the air. The inspector's jaw ticked. He did not like surprises. He especially did not like surprises in black glass. Chief Balogan's eyes stayed very innocent. The gold watch man took a step closer. "We will manage from here," he said softly. "You can stand down." Before anyone could answer, the black SUV's back door opened fully. A smooth shoe touched the dust, and a tall man stepped out, one Omolola recognized from a billboard in the next town. He was not a policeman. He was the owner of the pesticide depot. He looked at the pot, then at Omalola's bottles in the health officer's hands, and smiled like a man who came to collect a debt. The tall man from the SUV straightened, dust glinting off his polished shoes. His agbada was cream-colored, lined with gold thread, and on his wrist shimmered a watch worth more than a whole farm season. His face was sharp, handsome in a cold way, the kind of face people trusted when they saw it on billboards. Everyone in Jeju had seen him smiling down from the poster above the road to town. Chief Alade Sun's Agro Depot, feeding the nation. But here, under the sun, he wasn't smiling. He looked at the bubbling ancestral pot, then at the villagers who gathered around it, and then his eyes locked on Omalola. His lips curved into something between amusement and warning. "You," he said in a voice that carried like iron across the square, "have stirred a pot that was never yours to touch." Gasps broke the crowd. Mothers clutched babies tighter. The Baal's hand trembled on his staff. Even Inspector Adekunle, who had faced city gangsters, cultists, and politicians, felt his stomach tighten. This was not just a priest's crime. This was bigger. Chief Alade turned to the inspector and said smoothly, "Hand them over. The priest, the cousin, the samples, everything. This is not your matter anymore." Omalola's breath caught. She remembered seeing trucks from Alade's depot at the cassava farm, the same farm that stank of chemicals, the same men who sprayed without masks. She remembered the oily rainbow on the pot that night, the dead lizard floating. Now she knew whose shadow had stretched longest over Jeju. She adjusted a Johnny against her chest, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "So it is you. You who poisoned the pot. You who used our ancestors as cover for your filth." The man's smile didn't falter. "Be careful, young mother," he said lightly. "Words can kill faster than poison." The Baal found his voice, though it cracked. "Chief Alade, this is Jeju's matter. Our pot, our priest, our children. You are not of this village." Chief Alade's eyes narrowed, and for a heartbeat, his smile disappeared. Then it returned, wider. "Baal," he said softly, "your yam barn does not fill itself. Who buys your grain when your people cannot? Who brings fertilizer to your farms when the land grows tired? You forget quickly who feeds Jeju." Shame colored the Baal's face, but he tightened his grip on the staff. The Ealode stepped forward, beads clinking. "Chief Alade, you may bring goods, but you do not own our dead. You will not carry away this pot." Alade's men shifted by the SUV, hands brushing machete handles, radios crackling softly. The gold watch man tilted his head, waiting for the order. Inspector Adekunle's jaw flexed. He had seen men like this, rich, connected, always arriving with SUVs and goons, always saying, "This is not your matter." He looked at his constables, two young men with sweat shining on their brows, fear in their eyes. They were outnumbered. Omalola saw it too. She took a step forward, raising her voice so all the villagers could hear. "Do you see? It was never about ancestors. It was never about spirits. It was about men like him using our fear to hide their dirt. How many of your babies coughed? How many graves dug too soon? And still you say nothing?" The widow of Kola lifted her head from the dust. Her voice cracked, but it carried. "My husband died in that pot. You will not take him away." The crowd stirred, anger burning through their fear. Adewale raised the 2 bottles higher, his voice sharp. "Here is proof. Here is poison in clear water. If they take it, the truth dies. Will you let them?" The crowd shouted back, "No. We will not." Chief Alade's smile vanished. He flicked his fingers. His men moved forward in a line, heavy boots grinding dust. The villagers tensed, men grabbing sticks, women picking stones, the Ashneed boy holding a slingshot with shaking hands. Inspector Adekunle stepped between the 2 groups, palms raised. "Hold," he barked. "There will be no blood here." His eyes locked on Alade's. "If you want these men, these samples, this pot, you bring me a signed order. Not your mouth, not your money. Paper with the state seal." For a second, Aladi's jaw tightened. Then he chuckled. You think paper protects you? You think the state is not already mine? He leaned close, lowering his voice so only the inspector, Omolola, and the chiefs could hear. Be careful. People disappear in smaller villages than this. Aremu, still bound, suddenly shouted, It wasn't me. It was them. His eyes bulged with fear. They told Baba Odu to use the bottles. They brought the sacks at night. I carried them, yes, but only because they paid me. The crowd roared with shock. Some turned on Chief Balogan, remembering his ties to the farm. Others shouted at Alade's men. Chief Balogan's face drained of color. He hissed at Aremu, Shut your mouth. But the damage was done. Mama Tay's voice rose, sharp as a blade. Then it is true. Our own chiefs sold us to poison. The square boiled with fury. Alad snapped his fingers. His men drew machetes fully now, blades flashing. The villagers surged, sticks and stones raised. The guards held Baba Odu tighter as he twisted and laughed madly, shouting, I told you, you cannot stop them. They own you all. The pot gurgled again, spilling sludge onto the ground. Flies swarmed in clouds. The stench was unbearable. Ajani coughed in Omolola's arms, weaker this time. Her heart clenched. She shouted over the noise, If we fight each other, our children still die. Hold the pot. Hold the truth. Do not let them take it. Her voice cut through the chaos like a drumbeat. The villagers echoed, Hold the pot. Hold the truth. For a breath, no one moved. Two lines stood facing each other, villagers with sticks, farm men with machetes, the police caught in the middle, the pot bubbling behind like a demon waking. The silence was thicker than the dust. Then a stone flew. No one knew who threw it. It struck the SUV's window with a loud thunk. The gold watchman snarled and raised his machete. The villagers screamed. The first real clash was about to begin, and at that exact moment, the ancestral pot tipped. The heavy clay cracked against the plank. Black water surged out in a wave, bottles spilling like dead fish. The corpse of Kola slid halfway onto the ground, flies erupting in black clouds. And from the depths of the pot, something else came crawling, something no one expected. A second body, smaller, fragile, its hand still clutching a cloth amulet. The widow of Kola screamed until her voice broke. That is my son. Two corpses now lay before the village, Kola and his missing child, and the people of Jeju realized the pot had held more than poison. It had been swallowing their families. Two bodies sprawled before Jeju. One was Kola, the night guard, bloated and foul. The other was his little boy, skin waxy, fingers still clutched around a cloth amulet that had once been tied at his neck. The wails of the widow cut the air sharper than any machete. My husband, my son, you fed them to the pot. Her cries carried across the square, piercing every heart. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Men's throats closed with rage. Even the Baal, who had weathered famine and wars, could not stand straight. His staff shook in his hand, and Omolola, clutching Ajani to her chest, felt the world tilt. This was no longer only about poison. It was about blood. The widow flung herself on Kola's chest, sobbing into his cold skin. Her hands trembled over the boy's small body. They told me he was lost in the bush, she wailed. They told me the forest took him, but all the while, he was here. Villagers gasped, their voices shaking with horror. They lied to us. They said the gods demanded it. This is no shrine. It is a graveyard. The corpse of the child stirred the crowd more than the sight of bottles ever could. Babies are the village's future. To see one defiled broke every taboo. Inspector Adekunle swallowed hard. He had seen corpses in his work, armed robbers shot in the street, accident victims mangled on the road. But this was different. This was ritual dressed in tradition, and it smelled of politics. He barked at his constables, "Rope off the pot, no one else touch it." But no rope could hold back grief. Mothers pressed forward, shouting the names of children lost in the last 2 years. Folasad, Kunle, Adana! Each name cracked the air like thunder. Each one made the pot darker, heavier, more monstrous. The Iyalode raised her hands, her beads clicking sharply. Silence, she commanded. Her voice shook, but it carried. Do not call the names of the dead here. Let their spirits rest. But know this, if 2 bodies rise, there may be more. We must demand the truth. All eyes swung to Baba Odu. Bound and bleeding, he still tried to stand tall. I warned you, he rasped, lips curling. The spirits require sacrifice. Without blood, the land withers. A stone flew from the crowd, striking his shoulder. He staggered but laughed, a hollow, mad sound. Throw all you like. You cannot change the law of the ancestors. Ancestors? Mamate spat. Which ancestor asked for poison in a plastic bottle? Which ancestor wanted children drowned in filth? You twist the past to hide your greed. The widow suddenly sprang up from Kola's body, eyes blazing with grief-fueled fury. She lunged at Baba Odu, nails bared. You killed them, she shrieked. You killed my family! Guards pulled her back, but her scream ignited the crowd. Men surged forward, fists raised, women shouting, Stone him! Burn him! Throw him in the pot! The Baal pounded his staff, voice thunderous. Stop! The square froze, trembling on the edge of riot. Dust hung in the air. The inspector stepped forward. If you kill him here, the truth dies with him. The city will call you savages, and his masters will walk free. But if you keep him breathing, he will speak. He will lead us to those who fed the pot. The health officer nodded sharply. We must drain the pot carefully. I need containers, gloves, strong men with steady hands. If there are more bodies, we must recover them properly. Fear rippled through the villagers. To touch the pot was taboo, but already that taboo was broken. Slowly, 3 young farmers stepped forward. We will help, they said. As the men prepared, Aremu cried out suddenly. Not all of them are in the pot. His voice cracked. Some were taken to the farm, buried under the cassava rows. The priest said the land must drink too. The crowd howled with rage. Monsters. Devils. Burying children in the soil we eat from. Chief Balagan's face drained of color. He tried to speak, but his lips only trembled. The health officer dipped her gloved hands into the sludge. She gagged at the smell but kept working. One by one, bottles and rags and bones surfaced. A child's slipper. A woman's necklace. Another hand, skeletal this time, rising from the muck. The villagers wailed. Adewale held Omalola's shoulder, steadying her. She whispered to him. It was not just poison. It was murder, wrapped in tradition. He used our fear to hide bodies. Adewale nodded grimly. And someone richer than him paid for it. His eyes flicked to Chief Alade, who still stood calm, his men behind him like shadows. Suddenly the pot lurched. The clay cracked with a loud snap. A great fissure split down its side, and black sludge poured onto the ground. From the flood, 2 more bodies rolled free, one old, one young. Their hair tangled, their skin gray, their mouths open in eternal screams. The crowd screamed with them. The pot shuddered once more and collapsed in on itself, shattering into pieces. The earth drank the poison, flies rising in a thick black cloud, and as the last shard fell, Baba Odu threw back his head and shouted, You fools! The pot was the only thing keeping them below. Now they will walk. The ancestral pot shattered into dust, and the black sludge spread across the ground in thick, stinking rivers. From its foul tide, bodies spilled, swollen, pale, twisted in death. First 2, then 3, then more, limbs tangled together, eyes staring blankly at the sky. But the horror was not in their stillness. It was in their movement. The first corpse twitched, a finger curled, a chest heaved, sucking air through a throat that should not breathe. Another corpse shifted its head, jaw snapping open and shut like a dying fish. Soon, the square was filled with the wet, broken sound of the dead gasping for life. Baba Odu, bound but defiant, laughed with cracked lips. You see? You fools! The pot kept them down. Now they come for you all. The widow of Kola screamed as her husband's body shuddered and slowly tried to sit up. The villagers staggered back, fear splintering through them. Mothers clutched babies. Men dropped their sticks. Children wailed. The smell of rot and poison was overwhelming, thick enough to choke breath. The Baal raised his staff with shaking hands. They are not alive. They cannot be alive. But the corpses twitched again, as if strings were being pulled from beneath the ground. A child's corpse sat upright, head rolling to the side, milky eyes fixed on nothing. Its small hand clawed at the dust. The Ayalode clutched her beads, whispering prayers. This is abomination. Inspector Adekunle barked at his constables. Hold your ground. They're not walking spirits, they're... He stopped himself. His rational mind searched for answers. Gases, chemicals, nerves twitching. But his own heart hammered with terror. The health officer, pale under her scarf, whispered, nerve spasms, maybe toxins in the soil. But this many? It doesn't make sense. The villagers didn't hear her explanation. They saw only bodies moving. The widow of Kola crawled toward her husband's corpse, sobbing. Kola, it is me, Ayabo. Wake, my love, wake. She touched his arm. His head rolled, mouth hanging open. A wet sound gurgled in his throat. She screamed and stumbled back. Aremu, still bound, cried out, It is the curse. Baba Odu said if the pot broke, the dead would rise. His words spread faster than truth. The villagers panicked, some bolting for the road, others pressing against the school wall. Mama Tay, the midwife, slammed her palm against the ground. Stop running, she barked, her voice cutting like a whip. You leave the square, you spread the curse across Jeju. Stand. But fear makes people deaf. One corpse dragged itself fully upright, Kola. His chest rose and fell in ghastly rhythm, his arms twitching. Iyabo fainted with a shriek. The men closest backed away. It's true, they cried. The dead walk. Baba Odu's laughter grew wild. He twisted in the guard's grip, spittle flying. You mocked me. You tied me. Now you will all pay. Omalola tightened her hold on Ajani, who whimpered against her chest. She turned to Adewale, her voice steady but low. Listen to me. They are not spirits. They are bodies poisoned, bodies rotting. I saw this before, at the farm, animals that drank the waste. They twitched, they kicked, long after death. This is the same. Adewale looked at her, torn between belief and fear. But her calm steadied him. He nodded, gripping the bottles of evidence tighter. Then we must show them, he said. The corpse of the child suddenly let out a sharp cry. Not a word, not a soul's voice, just air forced through a poisoned throat. It was enough. The villagers screamed and surged backward. The ash-kneed boy tripped and fell, the slingshot flying from his hand. The corpse's arm stretched toward him. Omalola lunged without thinking. She grabbed the boy by his wrapper, yanked him back, and kicked the corpse's arm away. Her foot sank into flesh that gave like mud. The stench clung to her skin. The boy sobbed into her wrapper, clinging to her. See, she shouted at the villagers. They are not spirits. They rot, they stink, they bleed. They are victims, not demons. Her words wavered against the thick wall of fear, but some villagers stopped fleeing. Some even looked closer at the corpses, noticing the bones jutting, the flies feeding, the unnatural jerks of poisoned muscles. Inspector Adekunle took the moment. She is right, he barked. Stand firm. These are not ghosts, they are evidence. If you burn them, the truth dies. Hold your ground. Chief Alad, calm amidst the chaos, finally stepped forward. He raised his hand, and his men lowered their machetes slightly. His voice was smooth, controlled, almost mocking. Evidence? He said. Evidence of what? That the people of Jeju kill their own? That your priest throws bodies into his own shrine? That your Baal looked away while poison poured into his children's mouths? This evidence will not destroy me. It will destroy all of you." The words struck like knives. The villagers froze, turning toward their chiefs with suspicion. Chief Belogan stammered, "He lies," but his face betrayed guilt. Alad smiled thinly. "If the police write their report, it will not say Alad poisoned Jeju. It will say Jeju fed poison to itself. And the government will close your farms, seize your land, scatter your children. That is what truth brings you." The Bali's staff trembled. For the first time, he looked less like a leader and more like a frightened old man. The corpses twitched again, a grotesque chorus of jerks and spasms. Iyabo's fainted body lay dangerously close to her husband's moving corpse. The crowd shouted for someone to pull her away, but none dared go near. Omolola shoved Ajani into Adewale's arms. "Hold him," she said. Before he could protest, she darted forward. With Mamate's help, she dragged Iyabo away from Kola's spasming arms. Her muscles burned, her skin crawled at the touch of sludge, but she did not stop until the widow was safe by the school wall. When she straightened her wrapper soaked and stinking, she looked straight at Alad. "You think truth will destroy us? No. Silence is what destroys us. Silence filled that pot. Silence killed these children, and silence will kill Ajani if I let it." Her words rang. The villagers, though still trembling, straightened their backs. The fear that had driven them began to twist into anger, not at the corpses, not at ghosts, but at the living men who had caused this horror. Alad's smile faded. His voice sharpened. "Enough. Take the bottles." His men surged forward again, machetes flashing. The villagers surged back with sticks and stones. Inspector Adekunle drew his pistol, firing a single shot into the air. Bang! The sound echoed through the square. Everyone froze. For a heartbeat, silence ruled. Then the corpses gave one last collective shudder. Kola's body convulsed violently, then went still. The child's corpse collapsed in the sludge. One by one, the others fell silent again, lifeless at last. The pot was gone. The dead lay bare. The stench was unbearable. And standing above it all was Chief Alad, his men bristling, his eyes fixed on Omolola. He pointed at her with one gold-ringed finger and declared, "Take her. If she lives, Jeju rises against me. If she dies, Jeju dies with her." Chief Alad's gold-ringed finger stayed pointed like a spear. "Take her," he commanded. His voice was calm, but his words carried death. "If she lives, Jeju rises against me. If she dies, Jeju dies with her." At once his men moved, machetes gleaming, boots pounding dust. They came not for the pot, not for Baba Odu, but for Omolola, who stood with sludge-stained wrapper clinging to her skin, Ajani crying faintly in Adewale's arms. The first machete swung toward her. The villagers gasped as one. Mothers pulled their children behind them. Men tightened grips on sticks. Boys stooped for stones. But fear still clung heavy. These were not farmers with cutlasses. These were city men, trained to kill without blinking. Adewale's eyes blazed. He shifted Ajani to one arm and raised the two bottles high with the other. "You want her?" he roared. "You must cut through me first." His words sparked fire in the villagers' hearts. The Iyalode's voice cut sharp. "Stand, protect her. If she falls, Jeju falls." The first of Alade's men lunged. A stone cracked against his head, thrown by the ash-kneed boy with trembling hands. The man staggered, blood dripping. A roar went up from the crowd. Women shrieked war cries. Men surged with sticks and hoes. The square exploded into chaos. Omolola grabbed Adewale's wrist. "We cannot fight them all," she hissed. "We must get Ajani out." Adewale nodded grimly. He shoved the bottles into Mamate's hands. "Guard these with your life. If we lose them, we lose everything." Mamate clutched them tight against her chest. Her old eyes hardened. "Go," she barked. Omolola took Ajani back, tying him close with trembling hands. "Stay awake, my son," she whispered, kissing his head. Then Adewale grabbed her arm, and together they darted through the side of the crowd, ducking under swinging sticks, dodging blows, slipping between bodies. Behind them, Alad's men bellowed, "Catch them!" A machete slashed close, grazing Omalola's wrapper. She stumbled, but Adewale caught her, dragging her upright. They sprinted past the yam sheds, lungs burning, dust blinding. Ajani whimpered but did not cry loud. Fear seemed to press his tiny voice down. They slipped into a narrow path between mud houses, hearts pounding. For a breath, silence followed them. Omalola leaned against a wall, clutching Ajani, gasping for air. Adewale wiped sweat from his brow. "We must reach the old palm grove," he whispered. "They cannot follow easily there." But then footsteps thundered closer. The men were not far. A machete blade flashed as one man rounded the corner. Adewale swung a heavy pestle left, forgotten by a door. Wood cracked against metal. The man grunted, reeled back. Another lunged past him. Omalola hurled sand in his eyes, blinding him long enough for Adewale to kick him into the dust. They ran again. They reached the edge of the palm grove. Tall trees loomed, their shadows long, their fronds whispering in the wind. Omalola's legs shook. "I cannot run forever," she whispered. Ajani's breath was shallow. Her heart squeezed tight with fear. Adewale gripped her hand. "Just a little farther. Trust me." Behind them, Alad's voice carried through the square, sharp and commanding. "Close the roads, block the grove. No one leaves Jeju today." The words chilled Omalola. This was no raid. This was a siege. Chief Alade had not come unprepared. He had sealed the village like a trap. Adewale's jaw tightened. He came to finish us, not just silence us. Omalola looked at Ajani, his small chest rising weakly. "Then we must not just survive," she said. "We must tear his mask away." Voices rose on all sides. The grove filled with shadows. Alade's men closing in, their boots crunching leaves. The villagers had not followed into the trees. Most were still fighting in the square. Here, Omalola and Adewale stood nearly alone. A man stepped into view ahead, machete glinting. Another behind. The circle closed. Adewale raised the pestle again, sweat dripping into his eyes. Omalola pressed Ajani close, whispering prayers into his curls. The first man lunged. Adewale swung, wood cracking against steel. Sparks flew. Another came from the side. Omalola ducked, clutching Ajani as the blade carved bark from a palm trunk. They were surrounded. Suddenly, a horn blasted through the grove. "Pooh!" Deep and loud, like a war cry from another age. From the trees burst villagers, hunters with bows, farmers with hoes, women with pestles. At their front was the Baal, his staff raised, his eyes blazing with fury not seen in years. "Jeju is not yours, Alad," he thundered. "It is ours." Arrows flew, stones cracked, men shouted. Alad's guards staggered under the sudden rush. Adewale roared, driving the pestle into a man's chest. Omalola shielded Ajani as a machete whistled past her ear. The grove erupted into battle, and high above, unseen by many, a drone buzzed, its red light blinking as it recorded every moment of the fight, beaming the secret of Jeju's pot far beyond the village. The drone buzzed above the grove, its tiny propellers whining against the roar of men and women clashing below. Its red light blinked like a demon's eye, recording every swing of machete, every cry, every body that fell. None of the villagers noticed at first. Their eyes were fixed on the fight, their hearts fixed on survival. But Omalola saw it. She looked up between palm fronds, sweat burning her eyes, and her stomach turned cold. This was not just Alad's war on Jeju. Someone else was watching, someone far away. And if they were watching, the secret of the ancestral pot might not stay buried. Adewale slammed the pestle against a guard's side, sending him crashing into the roots. Blood sprayed. Omalola ducked under another blow, shielding Ajani's tiny body. All around them, villagers roared. Hunters' arrows flew, pestles cracked bone, machetes tore bark and flesh alike. The grove became a battlefield. But above the chaos, the drone hovered steady, blinking, recording. Chief Alad stood at the edge of the grove, untouched, his cream agbada barely stained with dust. He watched calmly as his men fought and fell. He saw the drone, too. His eyes flicked up once, and for the first time his mask cracked. He wasn't pleased. He was furious. "Shoot it down!" he barked. The Gold Watchman aimed a pistol at the sky and fired. The drone darted aside with insect-like speed. The bullet cracked leaves but missed. Another shot. Another miss. The buzzing grew louder, taunting. Omalola tugged Adewala's sleeve, pointing. "It records us," she said. "If it escapes, the world will see." Adewala's breath caught. "Then maybe the world will know." "No," she whispered. "Not if Alad controls it. He will twist what it shows." The Baal crashed into the fight, his staff striking with unexpected strength. "Drive them out," he roared. "This is Jeju's soil." The villagers surged, pushing Alad's men back. One hunter loosed an arrow that struck a machete wielder in the thigh. He screamed and fell. The tide was turning, but the drone dipped lower, hovering above the ancestral pot's broken shards. Its camera swiveled, zooming in on the corpses sprawled in sludge. It lingered on the child's body, on Kola's face, on the bottles glistening with poison. The villagers froze for a heartbeat, horror renewed by seeing their dead displayed like market wares. Women wailed, men trembled. "Stop looking," Omalola shouted. "Fight!" The ash-kneed boy, slingshot in hand, aimed high. His little fingers trembled. He pulled the leather back with all his strength and let go. The stone shot upward, spinning. The drone jerked but wasn't fast enough. Crack! The stone smashed against its body. Sparks burst. The buzzing turned frantic. It wobbled, tilted, then spun down wildly. It crashed into the sludge with a hiss, one propeller still twitching. The villagers cheered, voices shaking with relief. Chief Alad did not flinch. He only smiled thinly. "Do you think I send one bird?" he said. From the distance came another buzz, then another. Soon the sky whined with 3 more drones, red eyes blinking as they swept over the grove, recording everything, the fight, the corpses, the villagers' cries. The people looked up, terror creeping back. Omalola's heart sank. "This is bigger than Jeju," she whispered. "He has men in the city, machines in the sky. He will not stop." A villager cried, "The whole world will see us as savages." Another shouted, "They will call us child killers." The crowd faltered, their fight weakening. Alad's voice cut like a whip. "Yes, and when the videos spread, no one will blame me. They will blame you. They will say Jeju bathed its own children in poison, and you will be crushed." The Baal staggered, staff lowering, shame and fear in his eyes. "He speaks truth," he whispered. "The world will not know the difference." "No!" Omalola shouted, voice rising above the buzzing. She stepped forward, a Johnny tied tight against her chest, her wrapper stained with sludge. "The world will know if we tell it, if we hold the bottles, if we hold the truth, no lie can cover it." Her words struck like thunder. The villagers, trembling, began to shout with her, "Hold the bottles, hold the truth." Adewale raised the bottles high again, their clear walls shining with rainbow poison in the sun. The drones swooped lower, cameras fixed on the bottles. Alad's men pushed forward one last time, desperation in their eyes. The grove shook with the clash, wood against steel, arrows against machetes, voices against fear. Then a Johnny coughed again, loud and ragged. His small body shuddered. Omalola's arms tightened, her face crumpling. "No, my son, not now," she whispered. Mama Tay rushed to her side. She pressed her wrinkled hand to a Johnny's forehead. Her voice trembled. "He is slipping. The poison is in him. If he does not drink clean water soon, he will." She could not finish. Omalola's knees buckled. Adewale caught her, bottles still clutched tight. "We must save him," she gasped. "We cannot lose him to their poison." And above their cries, one drone hovered close, its red light blinking. A speaker crackled to life, and a voice boomed from the sky. Not Alaid's, but another, colder voice. "Jeju Village, surrender the woman and the bottles, or you will be erased." The drone's speaker crackled again, the faceless voice cold and sharp. "Jeju Village, surrender the woman and the bottles, or you will be erased." The words rolled over the grove like thunder. Villagers looked at one another with wide, terrified eyes. Erased? Did it mean guns? Fire? Bulldozers? None knew, but all felt the weight of death in that promise. Chief Alaid smiled, hands clasped behind his back. "You hear? Even the sky commands you. Give me the woman, give me the bottles, and your village will live another day." Omolola clutched Ajani, who wheezed against her chest, his tiny breaths shallow and fast. She looked at the crowd and said, voice breaking, "If you give me up, you give up every child in Jeju. Choose now." The grove was silent, save for the buzzing of drones and the labored breath of Ajani. Even the Baale, staff trembling in his hand, could not speak. Fear pressed on them all. But the Ialodi's coral beads clinked as she stepped forward. "We will not hand her over," she declared. Her voice was steady, her back straight. "If she falls, Jeju falls. We hold the truth." The villagers murmured agreement, stronger this time, louder. "We hold the truth." Chief Alaid's smile thinned. Inspector Adekunle stepped forward, pistol raised toward the sky. "If you threaten these people, you threaten the law of the nation," he barked at the drone. "You will not silence them." The drone hovered, silent now, recording. Omolola shifted Ajani in her arms, feeling his chest rise faintly. She turned to Adewale, whispering, "If he dies, they win. We must reach the nurse. We must keep the bottles safe." Adewale nodded, jaw tight. "We'll get him through, even if we bleed." Mamate pressed her cracked hand over Omolola's. "Child, you carried courage where the rest of us carried silence. If we must die today, we die behind you." Alaid's men lunged again. Villagers roared back. The grove became fire and storm. Pestles cracked against machetes, arrows flew, stones rained down. 2 drones dipped low, recording faces twisted in rage, capturing every drop of blood. In the chaos, Ajani coughed weakly, then fell frighteningly still. Omolola's knees buckled. "Ajani?" she cried, shaking him. His little eyes fluttered, lips dry. Mamate pressed an ear to his chest. Her face tightened. "He fades," she whispered. "Only clean water and breath of a healer can save him now." Omolola's vision blurred with tears. She kissed his damp forehead. "Hold on, my son. Hold on." The ash-kneed boy darted forward with his slingshot again. Another stone flew. It struck a drone squarely. Sparks burst. The machine crashed into a palm trunk. The villagers cheered wildly, courage rushing back like fire through dry grass. From the second drone, a voice spoke, not the cold one, but a human one, shocked, distant. "Are you seeing this? My God, children's bodies. Pesticides in the pot. This is live." The words didn't come from Jeju. They came from somewhere far away, maybe a newsroom, maybe a control room. For the first time, the villagers understood. The world was watching. Chief Alaid's face drained of color. He shouted at his men, "Cut the feed! Cut it now!" But the drone hovered, blinking red, streaming every moment. The Bali lifted his staff high. "For Jeju!" he roared. "Protect the mother! Protect the child!" The villagers surged with fury, no longer just defending Omolola. They defended themselves, their children, their dead. They crashed into Alad's men with unstoppable force. Machetes clanged to the ground. Men screamed. Blood painted roots red. Chief Balogan tried to slip away, but hunters caught him, dragging him into the square. His pleas fell on deaf ears. "You sold us!" They spat. You buried us! Inspector Adekunle fired warning shots, not at the villagers, not at Omolola, but at Alade's SUV, shattering its glass. Your reign ends here, he shouted. Omolola stumbled behind the line of fighters, clutching Ajani, his tiny body limp. Please, she begged, someone bring water. A girl rushed with a calabash. Omolola dipped her wrapper, wiped Ajani's lips, his forehead. He stirred faintly, but his breath still rasped. Mama Tay pressed both hands on the boy's chest, whispering prayers between sobs. Breathe, child. Breathe. Chief Alade, seeing the tide turn, drew a pistol from beneath his agbada. He aimed at Omolola. Time slowed, the gun raised, finger tightening, Ajani limp in her arms. No, Adewale roared, hurling the pestle with all his strength. The heavy wood struck Alade's arm. The shot went wild, tearing bark from a palm tree. Villagers swarmed him, dragging him down, beating him with fists, sticks, stones. His gold watch shattered. His agbada tore. The man who stood above Jeju now lay in its dust. The last drone hovered, camera fixed on Omolola as she cradled Ajani. She looked up at it, tears streaking her face, sludge staining her wrapper, voice raw. World, hear us, she cried. This is Jeju. We were told it was tradition to poison our babies, to drown them in lies. But it was greed. It was men hiding their crimes in the name of ancestors. We will not be silent again. We hold the truth. We hold the children. We will live. Her words rang through the grove, carried not just by the drone but by the voices of the villagers, who shouted with her until the sky itself seemed to shake. We hold the truth. The drones blinked, then pulled away, vanishing toward the horizon. The grove was left in silence but for the sobs of mothers and the labored breath of Ajani. Inspector Adekunle barked orders. Bind the traitors. Guard the pot's remains. This evidence goes to the city. No one touches it until the lab arrives. The Ayalode laid her hand on Omolola's shoulder. You saved us, she whispered. You paid the price, but you saved Jeju. Mama Tay pressed her ear to Ajani's chest one last time. She smiled through tears. His heart is weak, but it beats. If we carry him to the nurse tonight, he will live. Omolola kissed her son's head, relief breaking her at last. Adewale wrapped his arm around them both, his grip unshakable. And in the dust, bound and beaten, Baba Odu moaned, You fools! You fools! The land itself will curse you. But no one listened. The people of Jeju turned their backs on him and walked toward the future, carrying truth in bottles and hope in their arms. The last drone far above streamed the scene live across the world, and somewhere in a city office men in suits leaned forward, frowning, not because Jeju's secret was revealed, but because Omolola had lit a fire too dangerous to be contained.